It's been sort of a just forever forward thing at the moment. But if we set where the finish line is, then maybe. I don't know if everything can be consolidated into AG and host, but Claudia is doing a really great job of doing 4 or 5 images at a time. He's done 3 parts right now. Part 3 is up. I don't know how few that gets us, but I will. That'll be an action item for me.
Any way to run tests not marked serial in parallel?
I think that is assigned to me. That was a question. I think I had an open issue about like, what exactly are you wanting? Do we just want to make sure that conformance tests are never marked serial? What's
right now? Say for example, the conformance tests.
Because we bounced around a few ideas, is like, do we want this to be default?
So I still think having serial be the default is fine, and people can override for their CI if they need to, or for their environment. And we already have that capability. So some tests, yes, some of the tests can't be, what's it called? Can't be run in parallel. So I don't know what we want to do here. I don't think this is important. That's me though.
You don't think this is important? Is that what you said?
I don't. I think for most people that actually run the conformance tests in the wild, they don't care, right? If it takes a while, it's a one-shot deal. It is not something that they do continuously. I think for test automation, it is a bigger deal. And if they want to be able to spin up faster CI runs, parallelization matters. But I think we'd have to actually check inside of the test to make sure there aren't collisions on things. Like, for example, when we have parallelization, we do everything inside of namespace scoped items. There's no check for collision on namespace scoping on some of these things, and they do collide, and we've seen it before.
Really? Because doesn't it come up with like a random UUID and then put that in there? So there's UID collision on that?
Yeah, we've seen it several times.
Oh,
and
wow.
not all of it is UUID based too. So some of it actually has specific names in them. So you'd have to do a full audit. And
okay.
And the amount of ROI on that, it depends upon what you're doing, right? From an end customer perspective of just being able to run the tests, it's not, they don't care.
Mm-hmm.
They only care if they're running it multiple times. So I'm not, I think the priority of this is like, I consider this backlog. I'm going to take it off of 116.
Okay. Yeah. When I did investigation into this, the one thing I found was we only have one test that is currently marked conformance and serial. But the reason for that, I put at the very bottom. It's a PR from like 3 years ago, and it seemed kind of tenuous that it needed to be serial. It wasn't like disruptive. It was just saying like, we try and make a race by doing lots of things. And like, I didn't know why that had to be serial. So I had proposed, at least maybe for now, this ticket could be closed if we simply make that one test non-serial. But that's sort of like a stopgap. We're not making the rule you can't be conformance and serial, but we could at least say for the time being that happens to be the case. I don't know.
Yeah, again, I think it's really low priority. We could do that, sure, if you get to it. But I mean, I would even list this as help wanted. If other people want to work on it, they could do that. but it's not something that I think is worth blocking on. And I don't think it actually even affects the conformance working group. I think this is like optimization.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree. It's not about what is conformance. Unless you wanted to make a rule that says conformance tests can't be serial,
No.
then that's conformance working group. But otherwise, then it's just nice to have.
It's nice to have. I leave it
Okay.
there. All right. Clarify map spring, no split option or renaming. This seems very specific. I know there's a couple of refactors that I was like, why? Some of them didn't make sense. I'll have to take a look here. Refactor and clean up ETB framework utils. This is a very generic statement. Let me take a look at what it is.
It looks like it's just one of the random offshoots of pulling out part of that utils file.
Does somebody want to go through and review this? It needs a reviewer.
I'll take it.
George.
I get so jealous of Tim, seeing him like update the labels just like right there. It's like, damn, I want that.
Right. Add import restrictions to end-to-end testing framework.
I have not done that. That was, it kind of fell off my radar. Andrew, you had mentioned that if I needed help, I could ask you about that. You had done that before or something?
Yeah, I can help you with that.
Okay, I'll take a look at it. It's really off my out of my brain right now. I don't remember much about it other than need to do.
Okay. One thing that might be helpful is like just getting the skeleton import restrictions file just in the repository, and then we can incrementally like figure out what imports that we should prune and not and follow up PRs.
Yep.
Okay.
So we've kind of let this one sit forever. Document AT testing framework, local testing for contributors. It says lifecycle active. Let's take a look at the core issue here. Oh, to using kind and kube test. This is backlog. It doesn't look like it's just.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on your specific workflow. I mean, like personally, I've done some of these things using kind, but I don't use kube test. You know, I use kind and just run Ginkgo directly. I don't know. Just personal preference on how you want to develop.
I'm inclined to close this issue. I'm going to say closing in favor or issues.
Since it is slightly in front of us, just because this mentions kube test, I had just been looking at some of that stuff the other day, and I noticed that there's the kube test and there's kube test 2. Does anyone know the status of that? I saw like what looked to be a bunch of shims, but is kube test 2 the norm for other folks now? I don't use either, but I'm just curious.
No, kube test 2 was supposed to be like a pruning and refactor inside of the testing framework, and I think it's, last I heard, it was not actively being worked on.
Okay.
I got a hard stop at 10, but so let's try and get through 10 my time, so whatever your time. I got a hard stop at the end of the hour. How's that sound? today because I have a meeting overlap. So refresh. This is another one. This is the umbrella ticket. Looks like 2 of 10.
And apparently I'm assigned the whole thing.
It looks like Andrew, I think this one needs attention, and it's kind of bit rotting here.
Okay, thanks. I'll get to that. This is 77155. Okay.
Yeah. We should talk with Aaron as well about getting you approval access across the tests. We just need to make sure that the problem is that we're just going to do it for refactor and make sure that we don't abuse the privileges, because some of those
Yeah, for sure.
are really weird.
Yep.
Okay.
So Tim, while we have some time left before we go, I think Jitong wanted to talk about possible CFP he's submitting for KubeCon with the group.
Yeah. So let's add this here.
Thanks, Andrew. So I mentioned our testing comments in my CFP. So just wondering that would you suggest it go to the 6th session? So because my idea was aimed to a lightning talk, and then I select Stephen Wong, right? And he suggested that I check with you because I mentioned the specific SIG. And so just want to hear your opinion.
So the developer track is useful if you're trying to do a call to arms. That's usually the purpose of the developer track. So I think if we do that, we should talk about, why we're doing this and try to solicit feedback and try to get more people engaged. I think that is a worthwhile effort.
Mm-hmm.
So it would have to be like, they're either intros or deep dives. I think this would kind of be like one of those smash talks. I think they're kind of doing that nowadays, where they used to have 2 parts where they had intro and deep dive, and now they have the smash one, which is basically like just put them together. It seems like this would be one of those, like put them together, talk about testing in Kubernetes. And we might have to open ourselves up to a broader set of details. But I would be supportive of that. I think I need to talk with Aaron, and I haven't been going to the other SIG testing meeting, and make sure that we allocate the space for that. Let me talk at the other SIG testing meeting and talk about getting a smashed session.
Yeah, so I see 2 different angles for this potential talk around testing comments. Yeah, the first one is what you mentioned, Tim, like trying to get more developers to help by talking about like some of the details and challenges we're facing. But then the second one is like benefits to the ecosystem, like by providing an external framework, like other people can write their own custom tests for their third-party plugins or whatever.
Yeah, especially
so
synergies.
Yeah, so I think Jitong, like you should figure out like which one of those 2 you want your talk to really target, and then either do like a session or lightning talk if it's the latter, and a 6 session if it's the former.
Okay.
You don't need to decide right now. Like, but we should talk before next week, Tuesday, when the standard SIG testing meeting is, so I can talk with Aaron to figure out what we want to do.
All right.
We have just 4 minutes left before your hard stop, Tim. So one ticket I wanted to bring up is about the Fleet startup, how there's the whole like waiting for all nodes to be ready. And I have, it is 78500. Simplify ...
This one.
Right there. So I've had, I think it was, Jordan Liggett commenting, but there's just sort of an open question as to, there's these functions that will do this waiting. And the question is, do we want to provide an opt-out just at the start of the suite or internal to that logic? Because there's certain tests that will say, for instance, like destroy a node, now wait for all nodes to be ready. So like, do we need to be skipping all that logic as well? It seems like that could break tests if people do these things, but at the same time, if you don't skip the logic there, then maybe they're going to hang again. So wondered if you had thoughts or ideas about that.
What would be the benefit of trying to skip the check all nodes section?
The point is that some people have like their nodes tainted, and in such a way that the tests never start. The test would pass if they started. But
I don't think we'd want to skip. I think we want a knob for taint override, or have a better error message for these conditions, especially taints. Didn't we plumb through a taint override anyways?
Well, so I had started doing that. Jordan actually had a PR that did pretty much the same thing. So I deferred to him. Then it got put on his back burner. So I picked it up again, and he had said he had iterated and had conversations, and like this solution of simplifying some of that logic and not making some special case for master labels and taints and stuff. And then providing some way to just opt out of the wait entirely was the way that he strongly wanted to do it. In case it causes a problem for anybody, they always have an escape hatch.
I think you need to supply a user-specified whitelist of taints. I think that was the original thing that I said that makes the most sense, because that's the scenario where people have deployed something in the wild.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I'll reevaluate this and try and stir up the discussion. I think it's fallen off of Jordan's radar again. I asked him a bunch of questions and he didn't respond. So
I do know that this is. Why don't we revisit this in action item for next week?
Okay. I'll add it to the document. I know you got to run.
Yeah. Great.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right, so I think that's all we got for today. I will update the meeting invite as well as the community facing stuff. And if folks want to asynchronously, I might asynchronously do this today if I can, walk through the rest of the backlog and try to get a little more groomed. So next time we chat, we can have a little bit of a discussion about the backlog. There's only one page, so there's whatever and many issues in one page. Great.
Awesome.
Take care, everybody. And Jaitong, let us know before Tuesday what you want to do.